Hello there and welcome to the most watched business show in the country. This is the Business Weekly Show here on Cedi TV and I am your host Michael Obodu. Please hit me up on Twitter at @mobodu. In the next 1 hour, I'll be bringing you a wrap of all the major business news stories for the week. So if you're ready, let's go. Times have been pretty hard this year with the rate of depreciation of the cedi against the dollar, the constant increase in fuel prices, among others. All these have affected businesses and they have been denied of the predictability required for them to operate. How can you plan when, for instance, you can never be too sure of how much the dollar will cost the next day? Consumers, on the other hand, have also had to deal with prices on the market constantly increasing. The government has, however, announced some plans to get the economy back on track.
Today's press briefing comes days after Cabinet held its first regular quarterly retreat for 2022 from the 18th of March to the 20th of March at Petroleum. Over the past few months, Ghana's economy has been going through turbulent times as it is plagued with a number of challenges including rising inflation. The country's currency has also been suffering depreciation, especially against the US dollar, while the public debt level has reached an unsustainable level of 351.8 billion Ghana cedis. Earlier this week, the Bank of Ghana announced a number of complementary monetary measures to address the rising cost of goods and services on the market and the worrying performance of the cedi against major currencies such as the US dollar. Topical among the measures outlined by the Minister of Finance Ken Ofori-Atta on Thursday, March 24, 2022, is the reduction in fuel prices by 15 pesos per litre, effective April 1, 2022. This reduction will be in place for 3 months.
Government is implementing measures to guarantee constant supply of petroleum products. To mitigate the impact of the rising price of petroleum products at the pump for the next 3 months, government has decided to reduce margins in petroleum price build-up by a total of 15 pesos per litre with effect from 1st April. The details are as follows: bus margin reduced by 2 pesos per litre, Unified Petroleum Pricing Fund margin reduced by 9 pesos per litre, fuel margin reduced by 1 peso per litre, primary distribution margin reduced by 3 pesos per litre. Ladies and gentlemen, these reductions in margins are expected to reduce prices of petrol by 1.6% and diesel by 1.4%. We anticipate that the measures taken to strengthen the currency will help further stabilize the prices at the pump. Ladies and gentlemen, in addition, the NPA and the Ministry of Energy are in discussions with the OMCs to reduce their margins within the spirit of burden sharing.
On the expenditure front, the Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, noted that his outfit is currently meeting with some ministries, departments and agencies to review their spending plans for the rest of the 3 quarters of 2022.
Discretionary spending is to be further cut by an additional 10%. The Ministry of Finance is currently meeting with MDAs to review their spending plans for the rest of the 3 quarters to achieve the discretionary expenditure cuts. 2, these times call for very efficient use of energy resources. In line with this, there will be a 50% cut in fuel coupon allocations for all political appointees and heads of government institutions, including SOEs, effective 1st February 2022. With immediate effect, government has imposed a complete moratorium on the purchase of imported vehicles for the rest of the year. This will affect all new orders, especially four-wheel drives. We will ensure that the overall effect is to reduce total vehicle purchases by the public sector by at least 50% for the period.
He also highlighted some measures government is implementing to raise revenue domestically.
Cutting down on expenditures alone will not be enough. Our focus is therefore twofold: to control expenditure and to raise more revenue domestically. As such, we will therefore begin the implementation and collection of the revised property rate by end of April 2022. We'll implement the e-VAT e-commerce and e-gaming initiatives by end of April 2022. We will roll out a simplified tax filing mobile application for all eligible taxpayers by July 2022. We will impress upon Parliament to fast-track the passage of the e-levy bill, tax exemptions bill, and fees and charges bill. Prioritize the revenue assurance compliance and enforcement program, the RACE program, to plug revenue leakages, especially at the ports, the infamous fuel bunkering cartels, and small-scale mining exporters cabal. Government will partner the private sector to also introduce digital systems to monitor quarrying, sand winning, and salt winning to get more revenue from our natural resources. And immediately enforce the no duty, no exit policy at the MPS terminal at the Tema port to improve revenue collection.
You've heard the government's strategy in relation to various sectors of the economy, but what do you make of them? What do you think of the planned 15 peso decrease in fuel prices too? Drop us a comment on our Facebook or YouTube stream. We have also put together reactions from various stakeholders on the presentation by the Finance Minister in this video.
Following government's announcement of various measures to salvage the country's ailing economy, economist with Data Bank Courage Boti says plans by the government to inject an amount of $2 billion into the country's economy would help stabilize the depreciation rate of the cedi against the dollar for the first half of the year. According to him, this would improve the cedi's outlook.
It comes in to help the cedi, in fact, at a time where it's struggling so much. And I think this news filtered through the market in the last 2-3 days. And we've seen that there's some stability and a tilt towards maybe marginal appreciation on the currency market since the news filters through. And so if the deal succeeds, and then we rake in that match, what it does immediately is that it helps to improve the cedi's outlook. Government also gets money to finance its budget for the year 2022 without having to depend solely on domestic borrowing, which is quite costly. And given the inflation environment we are in now, yields on government bonds would even increase to much higher levels, really. And so it helps them solve the financing problem, at least for the first half year, while also supporting the cedi, really. I think that is a major significance of this 2 billion facility. Under these circumstances, where exchange rate is in a free fall, inflation on a rise, foreigners will leave your market, and they will leave because they sense risk. And that is the risk of attracting foreign capital, really. They come in a good time, but when there is risk, when there are troubles, they will go back in the same way they came. And you will see pressures on the currency, as opposed to local borrowing, where in worst case scenario, you can print currency and pay them. So the only thing about this one is that it might be more costly than maybe your typical Eurobond, but then it is not a facility that investors will run away if the problems are there, because it's a syndication loan and not a kind of a bond you've issued, really.
Meanwhile, the Chamber of Petroleum Consumers Ghana, COPEC, says the reduction of 15 pesos on the price of fuel by the government is negligible, considering the fact that fuel prices recently went up by close to 2 Ghana cedis. The chief executive of the National Petroleum Authority, Dr. Mustafa Abdulhamid, says prices of liquefied petroleum gas are expected to go down following the finance minister's announced reduction in the Unified Petroleum Price Fund.
So we're projecting a minimum of 70 pesos per litre, in the sense that government assured us when we had a meeting with government that they were going to, the Bank of Ghana was going to put certain interventions in place so that the cedi will appreciate against the dollar. These are uncertainties. We don't know whether Bank of Ghana will do that, but what we're calling for is that government should reduce or review some of the margin down and give the petroleum consumer a minimum of 70 pesos per litre.
But if you wanted 70, the government has done 15 pesos. That's worth commending, no?
I think that is not worth commending, because 15 pesos per litre should be quantified on a gallon. and a number of liters. So if, for example, someone uses 5 gallons a day and you win or scrap only 15 pesos, that is going to be about less than 3 Ghana cedis. And 3 Ghana cedis cannot even buy an additional liter. So what kind of savings are you giving? And also you realize that most of the levies reviewed downwards were not on the taxes and were not on the levies, but rather were on margins. And these margins were specifically for a particular operations in the petroleum downstream. So if you look at the build-up, tax and levies make up 1 Ghana cedi 90 pesos out of the 2 Ghana cedi 43 pesos. Now we were thinking that on the 1 Ghana cedi 90 pesos, government could have done at least 70 pesos on it.
The e-levy is one of the major policies the government hopes to rely on to get the economy back on track. But it appears the move by the government is already having a negative impact on the volume of mobile money transactions, for instance. But that is not all. The recent data from the Bank of Ghana indicates that internet banking services and GIPS instant payment had also recorded a drop.
Latest data from the Bank of Ghana has disclosed that the value of mobile money transactions for the first month of this year has risen by 13.6% year-on-year to 76.2 billion Ghana cedis. According to the Central Bank's Summary of Macroeconomic and Financial Data Report, the total number of Momo transactions increased from 301 million in January last year to 372 million in January this year. The value of mobile money interoperability transactions also saw a whopping jump of over 130% from 906 million Ghana cedis to over 2.1 billion Ghana cedis between January 2021 and January 2022. Although it is observed that on a year-on-year basis, most of these transactions recorded an increase in value and volume between January last year and January this year, the figures decreased on a monthly basis. These reductions seem to be as a result of reactions to the proposed electronic transfer levy, as government communications had earlier confirmed a reduction in the volumes if the tax policy is approved. The value of Momo transactions in January this year, for instance, saw an 8% decrease from the 82.9 billion Ghana cedis recorded in December last year to record 76.2 billion Ghana cedis. The number of Momo transactions also saw a drop from 401 million in December to 372 million in January this year. Mobile money interoperability also saw a 15% drop in volume from 12.2 million in December to 10.3 million in the first month of this year. Even the Ghana Interbank Payment and Settlement Systems GIPS Instant Pay, which has constantly seen a rise in volume over the past months, saw a 14% decrease from 5,375 to 4,620. Players in the industry have hence predicted more decreases in the volumes and value of electronic transactions should the government go ahead to implement the electronic transfer levy.
One group of people whose businesses rely largely on the dollar are importers, and the situation with the Cedi, according to them, has put them in very dire straits. It is literally shooting up their cost of doing business. The Cedi was about 6 Ghana cedis to a dollar in January this year. However, the rate is currently over 8 Ghana cedis. What then could be the solution to this situation? Recent data from the Bank of Ghana has disclosed that the Ghana cedi has so far in 2022 depreciated by about 14.6% to the US dollar. Not only has this ballooned the country's total debt, it has also impacted the economy, whose many sectors rely heavily on the dollar. The Cedi, which sold for around 6 cedis to a dollar, currently is at over 8 Ghana cedis depending on one source. Freight forwarder Jacob Ajaman explains how the price volatilities affect their operations.
So any impact on the dollar, either positive or negative, has a lot of influence on our business. And when I say our business, when my customers or my importers are complaining, indirectly my business is also affected. That is on the basis on which I speak or I talk that way. So when the dollar is depreciating, what it means is our duty rate goes up, or our duties rather goes up. So if we import your item and let's say the dollar was, let's say, 5 cedis or 6 cedis, and you're paying based on a 5 cedi or 6 cedi rate, now it is over 7 cedis. So definitely there will be price or cost going up.
Executive Secretary of the Importers and Exporters Association of Ghana, Samson Asakia Wingobet, says the situation with the cedi puts them in an uncomfortable place, which also means consumers will have to bear the brunt.
It has a direct correlation to the effect on the importer and the final consumer as well, because right now price keep on changing, not monthly again, not yearly, but in daily basis. And so with this, and if you are not a smarter person who can calculate and read between the lines, okay, immediately you feel sales in the evening, you have to go around look for a dollar to keep in your bank account. Wait until when you finish selling the whole cargo, then you can go back for another cargo. Even that, if you were to be someone who will say, okay, let me sell it and keep the money to my bank, as and when I need a dollar, then I'll go for it. Then maybe at that time, your projection was that dollar will not reach 7 cedis. Today it's at 8 cedis. Where do you go?
For freight forwarder Richard Nana Amwakon, he is concerned that the development is already posing a threat to their business as they are recording major declines.
Anyone that tells you that there is no decline in our job is probably not facing the truth, or maybe living on a different planet. We are greatly affected. Go to Golden Jubilee. Go and find out. I can tell you that the last few weeks, the containers that has been opened at Golden Jubilee, put all together, it could be just one day job for Golden Jubilee. The past or in the previous years, we are greatly affected. In a can, you see, in so ebowa, kasa ebowo, men kasa epete so aboye. We are really in a very dire situation.
The situation might seem dire, but what are the likely solutions?
Bank of Ghana has, within their law, can give permit to the commercial banks to import forex. We have top 10 banks that bring in forex will be more than the 2 billion the Ghana government is going to import. The Ghana government cannot sustain it. And so at this point in time, the worst scenario is either they would try to regulate it, which they cannot regulate because it will cause injury into the Ghanaian economy. But to give the permit to the Ghanaian Commercial Bank themselves to import forex, and most importantly, why is the government is making only $2 billion available? But we are not thinking that the number of Ghanaians who go to China, why are they not making China yuan available for those who go to China to use that for the China market, the Chinese market? So I strongly believe that let's give either the government will also come up to say, okay, we are also making this available of China yuan into the country. That could also consist.
The chairman of the Tema chapter of the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders, Johnny Mante, stressed that checking the activities of shipping lines is key to saving the cedi.
The shipping lines, one, their exchange rate, which is denominated in dollars, should be scrapped. It is illegal. It has no place in our system. It has no place in the shipping space and should be taken off. I mean, we are in a local industry. Why would a ship that brings your vessel after you have paid also much dollars abroad, why would they come here and they still charge you in US dollars and then converting into cedis? Don't forget, even where they have pegged stuff in USD, their rates are different. They don't abide with the Bank of Ghana exchange rates. So this is something that we've actually pleaded. We've screamed, we've shouted, we've done all that there is to be for government to look at this. So we are hoping that the minister today, he's been advising, he will look at these trends and ensure that this thing is taken down.
It's not only importers who are being affected by the deterioration of the cedi. The airlines haven't been left out. Passion Air has had to suspend its new haul route, and the company says this and the increase in fuel prices is to blame for their decision, even though trips to the area did not enjoy a lot of patronage.
The Volta region is gradually becoming a business and tourism hub, and due to this, it became necessary to introduce a flight to its capital to open opportunities for businesses. A Ghanaian airline, Passion Air, which started scheduled domestic operations in Ghana in August 2018 from its Accra hub to Kumasi, Takrade, Tamale and later Wa, began flying to Ho only 4 months ago. In an interview with City Business News, Sales and Marketing Manager, Passion Air, Samuel Razak Techi, however, says though the suspension is indefinite, it will resume flights to Ho as soon as fuel prices stabilize globally.
Load factor is one, the patronage, as a matter of fact, is one. But whilst the airline was still considering what to do and the way forward, because we had to do the marketing, make noise out there for people to know we have started the route and all of that. We had this unfortunate situation of having fuel hikes, and not only that, our exchange rate also took a dip. And so, you know, as an airline, we do most of our businesses in the foreign exchange. For instance, if we are taking our pilots for training outside the country, our engineers and technicians, we need to get foreign exchange to do that. So with the depreciation of the Cedi and the increase in fuel prices, we kind of took a double hit. And so the company decided that we had to review some of our operations across board. And Ho being the very last one to come on board, and also having low patronage on the route, we decided that we had to suspend operations for now.
Mr. Cedi added that the company will not have to suspend WAF flights because although operations commenced only a week before flights to Ho operationalized, patronage has been great. He tells City Business News they have had to increase flights to the town from 3 days a week to 5 days a week.
I think to note that Y and Ho started operations, we started operations to Y and Ho within the same week. 4 months down the line, we've increased frequencies from 3 times weekly to 5 times weekly on the Y route because the patronage has gone up. But unfortunately, on the whole route, the figures are not consistent. The figures are all over the place. Like I said initially, during Christmas, the figures were on an upward tangent, and sometime January, February, they started scattering all over the place. And so that is the main reason why we're still operating WA and not suspending the WA flights.
There was an announcement by the Minister of Information, Kojo Nkrumah, that the government was working on reviewing all 16 flagship programs in the country. Even though this wasn't actually carried out at the end of the day, it brought out some concerns with the programs, particularly for those that focused on the agricultural sector. For instance, the General Agricultural Workers Union, GAU, says the government should consider increasing the budgetary allocations to the agricultural sector, especially the Planting for Food and Jobs program, in light of the current challenges it is facing with regards to current food availability and cost.
Planting for Food and Jobs is a flagship agricultural campaign of the NPP government with 5 implementation modules. The first module aims at promoting food security and immediate availability of selected food crops on the market and also provide jobs. The 5 modules are food crops, planting for export and rural development, greenhouse technology villages, rearing for food and jobs, and agricultural mechanism. Although the program has been running since 2017, stakeholders have complained about how it has failed to achieve the results of adequate food supply and job provision. Generally, the agricultural sector has faced a number of challenges. Key amongst them has been the shortage of maize that hit the country sometime in April last year. This resulted in the temporary closure of 5 feed mills and subsequently resulted in many farmers selling off their birds due to the challenge of feeding them. There has also been an issue of bird flu, which has resulted in the killing of over 11,000 birds. One other lingering issue has to do with the supply of fertilizer, which has regularly been plagued with smuggling. Farmers are complaining that their yields will reduce and have called on government to address the situation. In an interview with City Business News, General Secretary of the General Agricultural Workers Union said with a number of challenges in the sector, government should consider increasing its budgetary allocation while ensuring it gets value for money as it plans to review the policy.
But now that we are in crisis, I think the area that should not lack money should be the agri sector. You know, they should invest more in the agri sector. They should not cut down the support that goes to the agri sector. But having said that, they should maintain the expenditure in the agri sector. What we are also calling for is that they must ensure that there's prudence and judicious use of the resources that will go to the agriculture. Because what we know is that if you take the agri budget, and then it is not judiciously spent. We have heard over and over that there have been too much smuggling of fertilizer and so on. We are also aware that even when suppliers are supposed to be paid money, they are not paid. This type of management within the agricultural sector is not so good at all for it. We cannot continue to spend money like this in the agri sector just because it's the agri sector. Yet we are not getting what benefits from it. So yes, we will call that for that government should maintain the budget of the agri sector. They should not cut it down. They should rather increase it. That should ensure that every peso that has been spent there, there's value for money.
On the other hand, the Poultry Farmers Association of Ghana says the rearing for food and jobs has not yielded the expected results since its inception. The farmers say their businesses are folding up due to unavailability of feed.
The Rearing for Food and Jobs program is one of the modules of the government's flagship agricultural program christened Planting for Food and Jobs. It's a 5-year program running from 2019 to 2021. The objective of the Rearing for Food and Jobs is to develop a competitive and more efficient livestock industry that increases domestic production, reduces importation of livestock products, and contributes to employment generation and to the improvement of livestock value chain actors and the national economy. It is also aimed at addressing issues associated with livestock development in the country, including but not limited to poor genetic quality of breeds used by farmers. Even though the program has been running since 2019, the Greater Accra Poultry Farmers Association says the program has not helped their situation in any way. In an interview with City Business News, board member of the Greater Accra Poultry Farmers Association, Kwame Tim, said its members are still struggling with feed and other necessary products.
Prices are increasing, so the cost of feeding the birds is getting higher by the day. So many farms have folded up. A number of farms have closed. And if you go to Domahinko, the feedback we are having is a number of the farmers have leased their farms to Ivorians, people from Cote d'Ivoire, using their farm facilities to do the poultry farm business now. So that is why we are not seeing a number of eggs coming from that side of the country to Accra in recent times. People who have gone there and witnessed the situation are saying that they have closed their farms because the cost of feeding the birds is getting higher. So if you brought your day-old chick today and you use your money to feed, especially the layers, the egg-laying birds, for 6 months, 7 months before they start producing and then buying their own feed, you have spent so much money.
The Bank of Ghana has announced an increment in the rate at which it lends to commercial banks in the country. It currently stands at 17% and it is the highest in a number of years. But what could be the reason for this at a time when times are hard for businesses? Our next video explains it all.
The monetary policy rate, which is of keen interest to businesses, signals the rate at which the central bank will lend to commercial banks. It also subsequently influences average lending rate on loans to individuals and businesses. The key rate at the start of this administration in 2017 hovered around 25.5%. This also fed into the average lending rate around that time, which was above 30%. Gradually, however, the central bank implemented consistent cuts in the policy rate, which led to its downward trajectory. From the highs of 25.5% in January 2017, the monetary policy rate dropped to 20% in January 2018, 16% in January 2019 and January 2020, 14.5% in January 2021, and all the way to 13.5% in June of 2021, before being raised by 100 basis points to 14.5% in November 2021. In his address to the media at the 105th MPC press conference, Governor of the Central Bank, Dr. Ernest Addison, noted that the latest hike in the policy rate is needed to deal with the depreciating cedi as well as to check rising inflation.
Consequently, the Ghana cedi has come under severe pressure as offshore investors exited positions in domestic securities at a time when the domestic demand for forex has increased. reflecting both real and speculative demand. This has caused the exchange rate to overshoot its long-term trend. The strengthening of the US dollar, liquidity pressures, uncertainties regarding budget implementation, portfolio reversals by non-residents, and some speculative pressures are key contributory factors. At this MPC, the combination of tighter global financing conditions, sharp pressures on the exchange rate, and elevated inflation pose some policy challenges. Headline inflation has risen sharply to 15.7% in February 2022, and both headline and core inflation are significantly above the upper limit of the medium-term target band. The uncertainty surrounding price developments and its impact on economic activity is weighing down business and consumer confidence. The risks in the outlook for inflation are on the upside and include petroleum price adjustments and transportation costs and exchange rate depreciation. Under these circumstances, the committee has decided to increase the policy rate by 250 basis points to 17%.
Dr. Ernest Addison further outlined other measures to be enforced in the banking sector to check excess liquidity in the system as well as inflation going forward.
In addition to the upward policy rate adjustment, the Bank of Ghana will, effective 1st April 2022, enforce the following measures in relation to the universal banks. The cash reserve ratio is increased to 12%. The capital conservation buffer is reset to the pre-pandemic level of 3%, making the capital adequacy ratio a total of 13%. And the provisioning rate for loans in the other loans exceptionally mentioned category is reset to the pre-pandemic level of 10%. Thank you.
On his part, banking consultant Nanotui Champon believes the policy rate hike will inevitably lead to an increase in interest rates. He has been speaking to Cedi Business News.
I'm afraid in a free market economy, there's nobody who can put systems in place to, stop market players from doing what they have to do. So yes, there's transmission rate. We've said it over and over again. And when it's moving northwards, the rate is quick. When it's southwards, the rate is slow. And I think that's what's going to happen. I doubt that any of the banks will wait for as long as they did for when it was moving southwards. So we should expect an increase in rate.
Citi TV is live. On DSTV, go to channel 363. On GoTV, access Citi TV on channel 182. On a digital TV, please press the menu button on the remote control and run a new search on your TV. Take note that without an antenna, you cannot access Citi TV on your television. Citi TV can be accessed on a free-to-air digital box like the GoTV and StarTimes box. Citi TV, it's your world.
Business magnate and chief of the Asogli State, Togbe Afede the 14th, has been reacting to the move by the central bank, and he is blaming the collapse of some local companies on Ghana's interest rates, which has over the years remained very high. He is therefore urging the central bank to consider introducing policies to ensure businesses get the much needed credit to boost their activities and support the Ghana Beyond Aid agenda.
Earlier this week, the Monetary Policy Committee of the Bank of Ghana increased the policy rate by 250 basis points to 17%. The monetary policy rate, which is of keen interest to businesses, signals the rate at which the central bank will lend to commercial banks. According to many stakeholders, the increase in the policy rate will automatically lead to an upward adjustment in average lending rates to businesses and individuals. In January 2017, the policy rate lingered around 25.5%. This affected the average lending rate, which was above 30% around that time. In January 2017, the policy rate was 25.5%. The rate dropped to 20% in January 2018. It also dropped to 16% in January 2019 and January 2020. It further dropped to 14.5% in January 2021 and all the way to 13.5% in June 2021 before being raised by 100 basis points to 14.5% in November 2021. A look at the figures shows that between January 2017 and January 2022, the policy rate dropped by about 43%, from 25.5% to 14.5%. On the other hand, the average lending rate also dropped by about 37%, from 31.8% to 20.2% within the same period. Speaking after the board and leadership of the National Petroleum Authority paid a courtesy call on him and Ho, chief of the Asogli State, Togbi Afede the 14th, urged the central bank to focus on restructuring the economy instead of always focusing on increasing interest rates.
If you look at the accounts of, let's say, Eco Bank last year, they made over 500 million Ghana cedis. Over 500 million Ghana cedis. Ghana Chartered Bank made almost 500 million Ghana cedis. The likes of Unilever, down. The likes of Pan Milk, down. But these are the sectors that we have to encourage if we have to change the structure of our economy. And I'm saying that these high interest rates are not making it easy for us to change the structure of the economy, to allow Ghanaians to own the economy, and to allow us to record surpluses on the other segments of the balance of payments account. So we have a problem, but we are creating difficult hurdles, okay, for resolution of those problems. I'm sorry, I'll say it again. Bank of Ghana itself made so much money last year, so much money, about 4 times the profits that Bank of England made. I've said it publicly already. Bank of England presiding over a 2.7 trillion economy. Our economy is about 70 billion.
It's been about 10 years since Ghana started earning petroleum revenue, but not everyone is enthused about how the monies are being used. Economist Dr. Theophilus Echampong has criticized the government's utilization of resources from the country's petroleum fund because, according to him, data indicates that most of the withdrawals from the stabilization fund, for instance, are used to repay debts. This, he believes, does not engender production and its related benefits to the country.
The Ghana Petroleum Funds are meant to channel excess petroleum revenues into financial instruments for sustaining public expenditure capacity during periods of unanticipated petroleum revenue shortfalls and serve as an endowment to support the development for future generations. They comprise the Ghana Stabilization Fund and the Ghana Heritage Fund. In an assessment of the management and use of petroleum reserves for the past 10 years, economist Dr. Theophilus Echampong disclosed that these petroleum funds are not yielding the results that they were set up for. According to him, this is because they are being used for other purposes such as payments of debts. He was speaking during a public lecture organized by the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC.
When we look at the year-on-year inflows on all of that, especially with the stabilization, we put the money in, we withdraw, we lower the cap, and we've never been able to build up the buffers within the stabilization fund. And interestingly, if you look at the withdrawals, over 74-75% of the withdrawals from the stabilization is actually being used for debt repayment over the years. And then you ask yourself, all these debt that we're taking, what is the return of that on the productive economic base of the country? That is, we didn't actually find any evidence whatsoever of the oil revenues translating into substantially changing the productive economic base of the country.
Dr. Echampon then called for the right policies to ensure the proper utilization of the country's petroleum revenues.
There is no debate as to whether we need to keep some of the money aside for future generation. And we say we want to keep only a small portion. The debate really has been on the quality of the investments that we're making with those monies, where in the 10 years, you can see the returns from, for example, the Heritage Fund is like 1%, whereas returns from the stock market, etc., are averaging 15-20%. So I think the debate really should be, how do we get better quality instruments to get a better return on those investments and live off those returns whilst we build up that fund? Because you are already spending 70p plus 21p, almost 91p of that on your budget anyway. And then, of course, we are also going to borrow. And then even when we borrow, we have big question marks on the quality of the investments that we're making with those funds. My position is on this is that we keep the Heritage Fund as is, but let's change the quality of the investment instruments so that we can get better returns on it. And this needn't necessarily be keeping money in the US Treasury, like buying Treasury bonds. We can actually invest locally, but find a way of ring fencing them so that the politicians don't end up taking that same money. By the time we realize we'll be here 10, 15 years and there'll be nothing to write home, about. So
let's turn our attention now to the SIM card re-registration exercise, because if you are yet to go through the process, you now have more time to do so. The sector ministry has announced an extension of the deadline, and that means you now have a few more months to have it done. The Consumer Protection Agency is, however, urging the government to streamline the Ghana card acquisition process to enable more people complete the process. This, the agency believes, will help increase the number of persons who are finally able to re-register their SIM cards. The Ghana card is a prerequisite for registering one's SIM card, but acquiring the card has posed a major challenge for some Ghanaians, as many have resorted to thronging the premises of the National Identification Authority in a bid to get their cards. On Monday, the Communications and Digitalization Ministry extended a deadline for the SIM registration exercise by 4 months after it was originally scheduled to end on March 31 this year. Speaking to City Business News, Executive Director of the Consumer Protection Agency, Kofi Kapito, called on the government to make efforts to address the challenges associated with the Ghana card acquisition, which he believes will improve the SIM card registration exercise.
Kudos to government for the extension. The question I will ask is, July is not that far off. By their own data, it looks like they still have a lot of numbers to be registered when it comes to the SIM. What I want to find out is, what is government going to do for the NIA registration as to be as easy as A, B, C, D? If you take a trip to the Shiashi office, which is the headquarters, it is not the best to see Ghanaians, workers, grandmothers, grandfathers, mothers with children at their back come and sit there from morning to evening. Sometimes they even have to go 3-4 days just to get a card. A card should not be that difficult. I mean, we've all gotten ID cards outside, even in Ghana.
The extension was welcoming news for many Ghanaians who have lauded the announcement by the sector ministry.
I think it's a good news, we're coming, and because the time frame was very short, so I think by July ending, I think most people will be able to register their SIM card. Yeah.
Hopefully you would have registered yours by then.
Yes, I'll do that. Yes.
So I haven't registered my SIM yet with my Ghana card. But the long queues are what deter me from going to get it done. Or it's to my advantage. Yeah, so I have a longer period of time to wait for a lot of people to finish with theirs before I can go for mine.
The telcos, they actually came to my church, so Committee 11 Presby, that's why I did mine. The process was quite easy. It was simple because it was church after church. We just queued and then we had it done. I was happy, but I was thinking that considering the long queues at the telcos when you pass by, I was thinking they would do it till the end of the year. But hey, we'll try the 31st July and see. I guess if a lot of people have not done it by then, they would extend till the end of the year.
We move now to pensions. As part of efforts towards increasing pensions penetration in the country, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust (SNIT) says it plans on roping in about 1 million contributors from the informal sector in the next 1 year. This, the pension service provider says, is part of efforts towards improving pensions penetration in the country. Out of the over 11 million workforce in the country, less than 2 million of them are active SNIT contributors. However, the informal sector dominates the yet-to-be-registered fraction. The Director General of SNIT, Dr. Ofori Tinkran, stressed that his outfit was confident of achieving this set target while changing the existing narrative. He was speaking to the media on the sidelines of a stakeholder engagement on the National Pension Scheme Providers' planned campaign to extend coverage to the informal sector.
From our own data, you find out that out of all the people that are in the informal sector who are enrolled on our pension scheme, there's only about some 14,000 of them, which is very, very minimal. So the terrain is wide open, and this program that we are embarking on, my hope is that maybe a year after we have rolled out this campaign, we can get, as much as about 1 million people, that's 10% of them enrolled onto our scheme. I know it's a very aggressive target because people need to buy into the idea that they too can join this scheme. People need to disabuse themselves of the notion that giving your money to SNIT is a waste, especially people in the informal sector who feel that they need the money now, not for some time later, which for them, sometimes they think it will never come, but as you and I know, it will come. So all those, readjustments need to take place, and that may take some time. But I believe that when we get traction, we should be able to make significant inroads. But I would say that, we'll set out for ourselves the aggressive target of maybe trying to bring on 1 million people onto the scheme 1 year after we've done this rollout.
He further highlighted the strategy his outfit hopes to adopt to help attain the set target.
The strategy that we mapped out, I think the one that I spoke about earlier, is mainly engaging these various structured organizations. I think once we've done that to get the buy-in of the various structured organizations, such as the one that we had today, we are going to do these so-called market activations, where we'll go out there into the field and, interact and hopefully speak in language that they can understand. Today's presentation has been quite technical, I understand that. But I think when we go out there and we engage, we would show people that, and we will talk them in a language that they can understand and help them, know the value that we provide. I don't think we can sit in our offices or just go on the radio and expect that we can sign on people. At the end of the day, when we do all this education, it needs to translate into sign-ons.
If you are planning of acquiring any of the government's affordable housing units and the cost has been a challenge for you, there is some positive developments in the space that might interest you. The Ministry of Works and Housing has announced the cost of housing units under the affordable housing project will be slashed by more than 50%. The ministry says the move forms part of efforts to check the high cost of accommodation in Ghana.
One of Ghana's long-standing socio-economic challenge is the availability of affordable and decent housing for its citizens. It remains one of the critical development challenges because of the huge gap between the supply and demand for housing. Current data from the Ghana Statistical Service on housing puts the national housing deficit at 1.8 million, a 33% reduction from the previous 2.8 million. Despite the decrease, government has assured of intensified efforts in ensuring that the old age problem is effectively resolved. Speaking at the annual CEO breakfast meeting of the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association (GREDA), Minister of Works and Housing Francis Asenso-Boakye announced that in its quest to reduce the housing deficit in the country, the cost of housing units under the Affordable Housing Project will be cut down by more than 50%. According to him, this will be captured in the new framework being developed by his outfit.
Statistics from the 2021 Population and Housing Census reported that housing characteristics has revealed that approximately 12.7% of the total structures counted were vacant housing units, giving a clear indication that our housing supply has outstripped the average person in Ghana and failed to address the housing needs of a significant segment of our society. It is in view of the above that government has prioritized the delivery of affordable housing units over the medium and further desires to institute a programmatic approach to address the affordability gap and increase access to various affordable housing options, thereby reducing the deficit. We are looking at a situation where we can build to cost about $20,000, $25,000, so that majority of Ghanaians can afford, instead of building to cost around $100,000 and over. That one, given our current income levels as a country, it will be very difficult. I urge all GREDA members to embrace this current framework of government to invest in the provision of affordable housing where the housing deficit is prevalent.
He also hinted of plans to introduce tax incentives for investors venturing into the real estate sector. President of the Ghana Real Estate Developers Association, Patrick Ebobonfo, noted that the rising cost of cement, iron rods and other building materials pose a great challenge to affordable housing delivery in the country.
The rising cost of cement, iron rods and other building materials poses the greatest challenge to our affordable housing delivery yet. I am therefore challenging all of us to come out with sustainable solutions to counter this problem. I urge all of us to take a second look at our building construction methodologies and materials use schemes to advise government on policy directions needed to forestall the canker. Interlocking hydrologically compressed bricks could be a way out. In addition, there are several other building systems that can help out.
Well, this is all time will allow us for this week's edition of the Business Weekly Show here on Cedi TV, your most watched business show in the country. For more business news stories, check out our website, citybusinessnews.com, and the business dashboard, which airs on Cedi TV at 10 p.m. repeats the following day at 7 and 10:30 a.m. My name is Michael Obodu. Please follow me on Twitter at @mobodu. Catch you same time next week. Stay safe, stay informed. Bye-bye.